Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Rob Guile, and this is Alley Group University Live. Today, we're coming to you from the corporate headquarters for Scotsman Ice Systems here in Vernon Hills, Illinois. Actually, we're in one of the training rooms. You know, when we put this program together and sent out the promotions, we talked about the fact that we were going to spend about 30 minutes talking about each of the 8 segments that are going to make up Alley Group University Live this fall. This is the second of those. And the reason we chose 30 minutes is because we know your time is valuable and everybody on the planet's busy right now. The second reason is if we would have had a chance to meet with you at NAFM, typically it's about 30 minutes in the booth on average. So we're going to condense down all that information and just simply talk about new products and new product applications here today. Now, at the end of the 30 minutes, we want to encourage you to stay online because we're going to have a networking event that should last another 10 to 15 minutes. That'll also give you an opportunity to verbally ask any questions that you might have about the presentation today or anything else that has to do with Scotsman. At the end of that networking time, we'll also be disclosing the dates for our next in-person event that'll take place early in 2022. Now, in just a few minutes, we'll bring on Vince DiTolo as well. But at this time, I'd like to introduce Jeff Beal. Jeff, let's get started.
All right, let's do it. Thanks, Rob. Like Rob said, this is a great opportunity for us to go over all the new stuff that we've come out with over the past year and a half or so. We've come out with a lot of different things that address a number of different applications and a number of different customer needs. Everything that you're going to see here today on the Scotsman side is made in our Fairfax, South Carolina facility, world-class award-winning facility. Very proud of that. We're US-based manufacturing, and we really think that that gives us a competitive advantage. Also, at the end of the presentation, we'll go over a little bit about kold-draft. And kold-draft is one of the most recent additions to the Alley Group portfolio. So with that, let's get started on the product presentation. Vince is here to join me with some of the show and tell. And we're going to get started with our under-counter offering. Over the past year and a half, we've introduced a lot of new products in this segment and really now makes Scotsman have the most diverse offering of under-counter units. So whether it's cube ice machines, nugget, flake, and we have all those ice forms in a number of different cabinets, everything from 15 inches, 20 inches, and 24 inches wide. And we're seeing that's really important because a lot of these units are going into much more smaller spaces. So you think about break rooms, offices, schools. And so you need to have a small footprint in order to get into those small areas.
And another place to use it too is if you have an existing ice machine in your facility, this is a nice way to be able to put in a satellite ice machine to augment the amount of ice that you would have in your facility.
Yeah. So these are front breathing units. So the air goes in the front and exhausts out the front as well. That's very important because lots of times you're going to have other pieces of equipment that are going to be next to these machines. These could be against a wall. In order for the machine to produce and be energy efficient, it needs to have that airflow be able to come in unobstructed. Also, very easy to open the door, easy access to the ice. And also we have a real nice hard plastic front panel. So dent-proof, rust-proof, smudge-proof as well. So very easy to clean. That's important because these things get bumped, they get dinged with carts, mops, people. So we really made sure that these are a real durable design.
Extremely robust.
Yes. So besides the width that's important, the height is very important as well. This machine here, we've taken the legs off and now we're under 32 inches in height. And that's really important for ADA applications, Americans with Disabilities applications. So we can get under the 34-inch countertop height, and we can do that with a floor mount kit.
Yeah.
Have one here.
With the optional floor mount kit, you remove the existing legs and you remove the two-face and you would adhere to the bottom and insert these bolts into the bottom, and then you'd be able to put the unit into place. And then if your jurisdiction requires it, we also supply a tube of caulking so you can actually silicone it to the floor.
And you need to silicone it to the floor in order to keep out any dirt, bugs, anything like that. And that's per health code. So we've done a lot to make sure that these machines can fit in these small spaces. But obviously another big concern with the operators is reliability. So we've implemented a lot of reliable features with the new flake and nugget units. Sealed bearings. So nugget ice and flake ice are made with an auger that rotates, and you need to have a bearing. Competitive units use bearings that need to be greased every 6 months, or they have a bushing that needs to be replaced. We have a maintenance-free sealed bearing. No need to do any maintenance on it. Should last the lifetime of the machine. This is a really big feature when it comes to flake and nugget machines.
Yeah, and we have years of reliability tests on it because we've actually had it incorporated in our HID ice and water dispensers, which we'll be talking about later, for over 7 years now.
Yeah. So again, very important in these other office and break room settings.
Yeah, and if you think about it, right, we're taking a high quality part and putting it into entry-level machines. So even though you're buying something that's maybe less expensive than one of our larger machines, you're still getting that same Scotsman quality throughout.
Yeah. And the other thing that we've done with these units, we've made them very energy efficient. So all of the 15-inch, 20-inch nugget and flake units meet Energy Star requirements. So that's good from a operator standpoint. You're going to be saving money on your energy bill, but you also can get rebates from local utility companies. And that could be anywhere from $25 to $100, depending on where you live. So we've really incorporated a lot of technology to address customer needs. Everything from making a small footprint, making it durable, making it reliable, and making it energy efficient. So we really think we've done a good job over the past year and a half with these units. So then we kind of move over to the cube units. So we've introduced a new 24-inch wide under-counter cube unit. So this replaces our 26-inch unit. So obviously everyone's trying to get into a smaller footprint. So now we've reduced the width by 2 inches so we can get into a lot more spaces. But what we've really done that's exciting is much higher production and better energy efficiency. So best in class ice production. So our UC 2724 model makes up to 280 pounds per day. That's best in class by far. And it's about 10 to 15% more energy efficient. Our UC 2024 model meets Energy Star requirements. So again, we're looking at footprint, we're looking at production, we're looking at energy efficiency, all things that are important.
So it's really a win-win because you're getting higher volume, smaller footprint, and energy efficiency. So it's a win every way you look at it.
Yeah. And in order to keep those production values high and energy efficiency, we need to make sure that that air is going through the front, and we got to make sure that that condenser stays clean. So we got a nice little removable air filter on the bottom.
As you can see here, it's a nice filter. You can take it, wash it in a wash sink. We make it very easy to take out, dry it, air dry it, and slide the unit back in.
And what we've seen, if that is not very accessible, it's simply not going to get clean. And if it doesn't get clean, your production goes down,
Right.
your efficiency goes down, and you could be running short of ice. So this is a nice key feature as well with the under-counter units. So all in all, very diverse lineup, all your different cube forms, and a number of different cabinets to meet a number of different needs.
So since we're speaking of cube forms, right, as we can have all different combinations here, you can get a cube or you can get a nugget machine, you can get a flake machine. What's the difference?
So good point. So we've got what we call a continuous ice maker with flake and nugget. So continuous ice maker, we use an evaporator, and basically there's an auger that is going to help push the frozen mixture of ice and water through the top, and then it gets extruded through some of these different, what we call breaker heads, and we can make our different forms of ice. So we can make nugget ice, we can make flake ice, we can make a harder nugget ice. So this is, again, a continuous ice maker, and I'll have Vince demonstrate cube ice.
All right, and this happens to be one of our small evaporators for one of our cubers. And the way this works is this sits on its side, and water cascades down it. And as we're removing the heat out, it starts to freeze as the temperature drops. And every 12 to 15 minutes, ice is going to go through a harvest mode and drop into the bin. So this technically is very similar to what you have in the old days when you take plastic trays, fill them up with water and put them in your freezer, right? So you're going to have ice every X period of time. Whereas the continuous, as you use some ice, it senses that you've used some and it'll start making more.
Looks like we have a question.
First one, Jeff, is from Terry Kidwell. She'd like to know, what is the overall height on the floor when the floor mount kit is installed?
Yeah, so the overall height with the floor mount kit installed is 31.8 inches. So just under 32 inches tall with the floor mount kit installed.
Okay, and from Keith Short, what is the minimum clearance inches and millimeters required for sides, above, and rear for the undercounter units? And I know that varies.
Yeah, that varies. I mean, ideally, you'd like to have at least a couple inches to pull the machine out. But, sorry, the question was what's the minimum side and top clearance for the undercounter units? And really, it can vary. It's really how much room to get your fingers in to pull it out if it ever needs maintenance. So if I was to talk to a service technician, they'd say, we'd love to have 6 inches all around. Realistically, if you're going to build that into a cabinet, you're going to have probably 5 millimeters. And yeah, that's probably enough to eventually wiggle the machine out. So it's really how much room you want to have in order to get a machine out if it ever needs service. But you can have it really, really tight in an under-counter application.
And like all ice machines, they should all have water filters.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, if you ever have to get back there and change out a water filter, you're going to want a little bit of room so you can kind of wiggle that machine out if it's really in that under-counter application. So we talked about the undercounters. We also have done a lot of upgrades to our modular nugget and flake machines. So we talked about reliability. We've implemented that sealed bearing in all of our modular units. And that's even more important with modular units because these are going into higher volume operations. They're getting run a lot more. They tend to take a little bit more abuse. So this is really important from their aspect. So we've implemented the bearing, but we've also introduced a new ice form to the modular series. We've got the original chewable ice. So this is the sonic ice that's been invented over 40 years ago. Very popular, probably one of our most popular forms now. But what we saw is for dispensing applications, sometimes it can be challenging. You need to have all the right settings on the dispenser perfectly correct. You need to make sure that the dispenser is agitating over the correct period of time. So we introduced this H2 nugget, which was in our ice and water dispenser, and we put that in the modular versions in case somebody wants to have a more reliable dispensing experience.
Yeah, and not that you can't dispense with soft. With the harder nugget, it just makes it that much easier.
Yeah, the H2 nugget is definitely more forgiving on dispenser applications. Now, there are people who absolutely positively want that original chewable ice, sonic ice. There is a difference. Sometimes people can't tell the difference. If we look at it in terms of what we call ice quality, H2 nugget is about 85% ice, 15% water. Original chewable ice, about 75% ice, 25% water. A little bit different form. Most people can't tell the difference, but your sonic aficionados, they definitely can tell the difference.
And most folks can't tell the difference also until they're side by side. You know, there is a little difference in the
Slight
appearance.
difference in chewability, but even with the H2 nugget that's harder, still among the softest in the market. And we also introduced a much larger capacity unit. So this unit right here makes over 2,000 pounds per day. It literally makes a ton of ice per day. We also have it in the flake version. And what we've done, we've implemented all the same technology that we did in the smaller modular flake and nugget. So it has the sealed bearings. It also has the QR code.
Sure.
So this little trap door on the front of the unit that's by our auto alert indicator lights, it reveals a QR code. And if you take that QR code and scan it with any smartphone, it's going to pull up a lot of useful product information. So it's going to give you your model number. It's going to give you your serial number. It's going to give you warranty expiration date, warranty start date. It's going to give you the parts list and service manual and cleaning instructions for this specific unit.
Right.
This is really powerful information to have from an operator perspective as well as a service agent perspective.
Key thing to remember is a lot of our ice machines look identical from the outside. You have no idea what's on the inside. So the average person can't tell. I can't tell if this is a nugget machine or a cuber, right? But by scanning this, it's going to give you all that information that you need. And in addition, kind of think of it like, you know, your Chevy pickup truck, you know, the pickup truck from 2010, maybe the same model as they make today, but the owner's manuals are quite different. So that's why this is really important, so that you're looking up, see the characteristics of that particular machine in the documentation.
So the days of crawling behind the machine with your flashlight and everything else and your mirror trying to get to that nameplate, those are over with Scotsman machines. Everything right there on the front. And that's on all of our modular machines. And even on the under counters, you just have to take that front panel off and a QR code is located right there at the front. So really nice information to have. So a lot of work on the large capacity units, flake, nugget, H2 nugget, and soft nugget.
Kind of quick thing to explain maybe. Like we talked about, this machine can do 2,000 pounds of ice. When can it do 2,000 pounds of ice?
Yeah, so it can do 2,000 pounds of ice over a 24-hour period. And the other nice thing is it's 30 inches wide, so you can actually put 2 units side by side and get.
That's right, 2 tons of ice. And that's a lot of big gulps. But the key thing though is, as Jeff indicated, it's how much ice it can produce in optimum conditions in a 24-hour period of time. I think lots of times people will look at the spec sheet and they'll see something that says 500 pounds or 600 pounds, and they think it's a magic box and all of a sudden all the ice is always there as needed, but that's under optimum conditions.
Yeah. And that's why we sized it for 30 inches wide. So if you do need another unit next to it, you can get 2 tons of ice per day and put that on a 60-inch bid. Not everyone needs that much ice, but you know, you look at some of these hot environments, some of these fast food places, even some of these fast casual places, they need 2,000 pounds of ice. And to Vince's point, 2,000 pounds turns into 1,500 pounds in the heat of Arizona pretty quickly.
Right. And also if somebody does go to nugget ice, right? Since it's so popular with the clientele, you're actually going to put more in a cup. It's going to, you know, you're going to get more product displacement, but you're going to use more ice anyway. So you're actually going to, your volume of ice is actually going to go up.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of upgrades on our flake and nugget unit. So we've also taken a look at the cube units as well from a sanitation aspect. The nice thing about flake and nugget units, they have a sealed evaporator system. So there's not a lot of contaminants that can actually get into that evaporator system that we showed earlier. If you look at a modular cube unit, it's very open. You can easily access that evaporator, but now your molds and yeasts, they can get into this, and this is a very good environment for things to grow in.
Right.
You have moisture, you have heat, and then you have all those contaminants in your surroundings that can get pulled into the machine.
Right.
So what we've seen over the past year and a half, the good thing is there's a lot more emphasis on sanitation and cleaning. Now, it'd be nice if everyone had that same attention all the time, but we know that if these things aren't clean, a lot of nasty stuff can grow in.
Right.
So especially your sandwich shops, your bars, any place they're baking bread.
Breweries.
Breweries.
Microbreweries, because anything there's yeast in the air, yeast and ice machines don't mix.
Yes. So what we've done, we've introduced a sanitation device, we call it X-Safe. And this sanitation device sits on top of the machine. A couple holes are drilled into the top panel. We connect some hoses. And what it does is it draws air up into this device. And in this device, there's a UV bulb. That UV bulb zaps that air, and it creates a mixture of photoplasma and ozone and other charged particles. And those particles are then deposited into the food zone, where it then reacts with those molds and yeast, bacteria, viruses. It does neutralize coronavirus even. And it just keeps your machine cleaner. All that nasty stuff, that slime, it's not able to grow because we're able to create this sanitizing vapor basically that permeates throughout the whole machine.
Yeah, it basically makes an invisible fog that actually goes down into the bin also and keeps it clean down there. One of the beautiful things about this device is there's a ton of aftermarket devices that when people use as an exposed bulb that you're putting in the bin. That's great until somebody will break it, right? This is sealed, it's protected. You don't have to worry about anything like that. Couple of knockout holes up here, drop the lines in, and then after it's installed, you plug the cord into 120 volts and you're ready to go.
Retrofittable, so units that are in the field that don't have this, again, very easy to put that on after the machine has already been installed. So again, just trying to address all those sanitation concerns that have definitely been more prominent over the last year and a half. So along the lines of sanitation, we take a look at our hotel dispenser. And with hotel dispensers, first of all, let's answer a question that's come from the field here.
From Keith. Don't forget to ask the question. What is the approximate water usage on unit gallons or liters for the modular?
The modular cuber. So for our modular cubers, it's approximately 18 gallons. So the water usage is approximately 18 gallons for every 100 pounds of ice that's produced. So if we round up to 20 for a 300 pounder, about 60, yeah, it's about 60 gallons. But obviously, as you go up in capacity, your water usage is going to go up. But a good rule of thumb, 20 or so gallons for every 100 pounds of ice. And
for cubers.
For cubers, yes. So for flake and nuggets, you're at 12 gallons for every 100 pounds of ice they produce.
It's going to show the plug for the X-Safe again. Plug for the X-Safe. How do you ask, where does it plug in?
Any 110 volt outlet.
So it plugs into a separate outlet from the ice maker. So with sanitation, we've also addressed it with our hotel dispensers. So before, you would actually have to use your hand to push on this chute in order to dispense ice. Obviously, there's not a desire nowadays to do that. So we put this little push for ice lever, which Vince is pushing on. So now you can just hold on to your bucket and it can dispense ice. So besides hotels, we've seen some interest with factories and other places where people want to fill coolers.
Distribution centers and such like that.
So think about your utility companies, your cable companies where they're rolling a truck. Workers can come in, get a cooler full of ice, and now we've got a sanitary method of doing that. So again, we're just always trying to address those demands for sanitation, which kind of leads me to the original sanitary ice maker, which I like to call it, and that's our ice and water dispenser. So the nice thing about our ice and water dispensers, and they've had this infrared technology for quite a while, and so you could see Vince is able to fill up his cup with ice and water. He doesn't have to touch the machine. So it's a very sanitary operation. And the HID series, I mean, it was originally designed for healthcare. And obviously, sanitation is key in that industry. So nurses could fill up jugs, cups of water, ice bags, and this dispenses that H2 nugget ice, which is a little bit more dispensable.
Even pitchers?
So it's great for pitchers. So very versatile. dispenses nugget ice, dispenses water, it stores ice. It's in a small footprint. This is actually our best selling SKU now. This is our HID 312. So it makes about 300 pounds of ice, stores 12, and it's in a 16-inch wide footprint. What we've seen is that it has moved well beyond healthcare. It has gone into offices, break rooms, cafeterias, country clubs.
Sure.
It's all over the place.
Absolutely.
And again, because of that versatility with ice and water, being able to store it and being able to put it in a small footprint.
It's also environmentally friendly, right? It's tier 2, correct?
Yep. So it meets energy standards with CE tier 2. Again, rebate eligible. Nugget ice, again, is inherently more energy efficient than cube ice. But what we did see with some of those applications as we move into assisted living, for instance, not everyone necessarily is familiar with infrared and how does it work. And we have had requests for, hey, can we put something so we don't have to mess with a infrared signal? And so we've come out with a push button version, because we do have people that simply like to be able to feel a button in order to dispense that ice and water. Public venues, cafeteria lines.
Yeah. You know, sort of like you said, assisted living facilities, with you may have the elderly and don't quite grasp how the sensor works. So we can use this, and these buttons are also treated with antimicrobial.
Yeah. So still trying to keep it as sanitary as possible, but there are segments that could benefit from a push button setup, much better than a lever setup. So with the lever, you think about that, somebody takes a drink, puts their lips and their saliva on the cup, and then they put that cup back on the lever. Now you're transferring all those germs to a lever, and then the next person puts their cup, and there's easy opportunity for cross-contamination. So we eliminate that with that button configuration.
Plus, with these going into more and more places, right, as we all know, everybody's carrying around a tumbler, a Yeti, you have it. So you're going to save a lot of these, right? Every one of these goes into a landfill. So it does give someone a very green alternative. So especially like in a car dealership or, you know, an office building, you know, it makes it life a lot simpler.
So the other thing that we've implemented with our HID water dispensers, Smooth Stream. So Smooth Stream is a little device that helps clean up the water that's being dispensed. So on a lot of competitive models, that water stream that comes out, it can be very hard and turbulent, and it can splash all over the place. That back panel can get a lot of scale on it. The water can splash onto the floor, so now you've got a tripping hazard. It can splash on your clothes. No one likes to have water splashed on the front of their pants. So this is a nice little device, it's basically an aerator, and you get a nice smooth stream of water coming out. So we implemented that feature probably in July. So it's standard on all of our units coming out. But for machines that are already in the field, we have a nice little retrofit kit that's very easy to just put right on that water tube, and it cleans up that water stream that's coming out. So again, even though we've had this ice and water dispenser out for several years, we're still looking at opportunities to address customer needs, whether it's ease of use or cleanability. So with that kind of concludes the Scotsman portion and gives us a little bit of time to talk about kold-draft. Again, kold-draft is one of the latest additions to the Ollie Group portfolio. And kold-draft has been around for 70 years, making their famous 1.25" square cube. And this is something that's asked for by name with all the mixologists and your high-end nightclubs. So kold-draft does have a very strong reputation in some of those segments. So you can see, I mean, it's a really nice cube for drinks. It's a great way for bars to differentiate their offering, especially now if you're going to get charged, you know, $10 or $15 a drink.
Right.
So kold-draft not only differentiates themselves with the cube, but also it's the number of configurations. Everything from a under-counter unit here to a modular unit over here next to me that makes 300 pounds. We have 500 pound per day units and even 1,000 pound per day units.
Right.
And they're stackable. So you can get a lot of capacity
In a small footprint.
in a small footprint. And that's really important because the nightclub in Las Vegas is going to have different ice needs than the small, little trendy cocktail lounge in New York City. So competitors, usually they only have very small sizes and only a couple different configurations. So we've got a very wide range of configurations to meet customer needs. Kold-draft also has another nice little lineup, what we call the cocktail series. And this is in smaller sizes, so 50 pound, 70 pound, and 100 pound per day. And it makes what we call the cocktail cube. It's an individual cube, just like kold-draft, 1.5 inch cube, but it's a little bit different shape. It's kind of unique. It's kind of more like our Scotsman gourmet cube. It's a very clear cube, and it's great for some of those small bar applications that maybe don't need, more than 200 pounds of ice. So it's just a nice complementary cube to the original 1.25 inch cube. So it's a nice lineup of machines that are really targeted towards specific segments. Again, your high-end bars, nightclubs. We are seeing it go into some of your normal day-to-day restaurants too.
Great presentation.
They're trying to differentiate themselves.
Right. And we talked about evaporators before in batches, making ice in batches. And the kold-draft units also make ice in batches. But what's unique about it is, like there are traditional cubers, the evaporators are on its side. This unit, the evaporators are upside down, right? And the water is actually sprayed up onto the evaporator and then it freezes. This allows all the impurities to actually drop down in the process. So you end up with that nice clear ice that everybody wants.
Yeah. So real excited about the kold-draft line. So that really concludes the product section of the presentation. And what I'd like to do now is briefly go over the Scotsman website, where we have a resource center that has a lot of great tools for you to access. We really go to great lengths to get everything on the public site. So if you go to our website, scotsman-ice.com, go to our resource center. It's got a lot of your standard marketing material. Under the technical section, it's got all your CAD and Revit drawings that a number of you need to have with your drawings. What I think is really neat is the ice machine configurator tool. So this is a question that we're constantly being asked is, what kind of ice machine is my customer going to need? So as you input different, inputs in, and you select, how many customers, and again, this is just a guideline, it's just estimates, but as you put those inputs in, it's going to continually filter down the number of machines that we would recommend. So you can see we're down to a couple different configurations, and we could just pick one, and we could further filter that down by cube size and condenser type, and it'll narrow it down all the way to the SKU level. So this is a really nice guideline to have to work with your customers to figure out, what kind of ice machine are we looking at.
And you don't even need to know your nomenclature because it automatically, all you have to do is answer the questions.
So you can email this, you can export it as a PDF. So we encourage you to kind of play around with that tool because it really is pretty impactful. So the other tool that we'd like to show is our competitive comparison tool. And basically we've gone through all the public areas where we can get competitive information. So it's Department of Energy databases, HRI, which is a third-party database, and we can basically compare all of our units with competition. So you can see we put in one of our model numbers and we get all the competitive models, and we get the ice production, the footprint, condenser type, energy consumption, water consumption, and we can actually input the energy and water costs down at the bottom there. We can get different paybacks and annual operating costs. And you can even enter in a competitive model, and again, it will give you the comparable Scotsman model. So this is a really powerful tool because that's something we always are getting asked with. What's the competitive model? or somebody's trying to replace a competitive model with a Scotsman, you know, what model am I looking at? So instead of having that series of phone calls to the rep and the manufacturer, and then
Or trying to poke around and figuring out on auto quotes will take you all day too.
exactly. So this is all on our public site, and again, it's a nice tool for you to play around with.
Sure.
We try our best to match those units up with the comparable units. Sometimes we get more than one. But again, it's just there to help you out when you're trying to compare units. So with that, that concludes the Scotsman presentation. Looks like we have another question or two.
One question. The question is, can we graphically wrap these units to complement the aesthetics? And I think it's two-part. Can it be done? And does Scotsman do it?
So can we wrap some of the modern units? So yes, it can be done. No, that's not something that Scotsman does. There's other third-party printing companies that can create wraps for the modular units.
Right.
What we do have is the ability. So on a lot of our units, we have a front airflow with a filter on the front. So if you wanted to change that, so to put some kind of a graphic, we can change the airflow so that the airflow comes in the side.
Yeah, so you could do the same thing on under counter, but the key thing is the professional who wraps it, as long as these vents are still intact, it would be perfectly fine. Like Jeff said, they can buy a kit and basically it's two different panels. One panel goes to the side and one goes to the front. Very common actually in a lot of C-store customers that we use because they want to use the front of our machine as a place to advertise.
Absolutely. So definitely can be done, but it's something that Scotsman doesn't do, and we would encourage them to work with the third party. Any other questions?
That's all I have on here right now.
Okay.
So we made that. Ryan, let's go ahead and open up to dialogues. Just going to tell them that, Jeff. We're going to open it up for questions.
So now we'll open it up for questions and open dialogue. So feel free to jump in with, so if you'd unmute your.
Yeah, you've been invited to unmute at this point. So if you have any more detailed questions, this would be a great opportunity to go ahead and ask those. Wow, none. I guess we covered everything.
We did cover a lot of stuff, everything from under counters to modulars to ice and water dispensers to cold draft. So it was a packed presentation for sure.
Hey, Jeff, there was one question, I don't know if it got answered. On the smooth stream, is that adjustable or it's just this? It's not, right?
No, the smooth stream, it's just a fixed part. So that is not adjustable. Now you can adjust your water pressure coming into the machine, but the device itself is not adjustable.
And that's the beauty of smooth stream. You don't have to adjust the pressure coming in. It automatically does it for you.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose of smooth stream, is to kind of even out any pressure adjustments that might occur in the water supply.
This is Katya with Sini Lippo. I have a question regarding the bins. Do you offer anything like your competitor with the F with carts, where the ice just drops into the cart so I don't have to shovel anything?
Yes, so Scotsman does offer a shuttle system. It's called the ICS shuttle system. So the ice drops into a bin, there's carts underneath, and then you've got that guillotine type device where it can drop in there. So yes, we do offer that, and that information is on our website under bins.
And it also comes up in the comparison tool.
Correct. It's in our comparison tool. It's in auto quotes. Got CAD drawings, KCL, Revit drawings.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yep.
If there's any more.
Any more questions, comments?
This is the price of the smooth stream retrofit kit.
Great job.
The question was the price of the retrofit kit. I honestly don't know, but I'm gonna guess it's pretty small. It's not gonna break the bank, I can tell you that, but I don't know off the top of my head what the pricing is. Yeah, we'll send that information to you on pricing of the kit.
Yeah, we can get that to everyone because I'm sure you'd like to know it. All right, anything else from any of you that are still on here? Thank you for joining us today. And the last thing that I promised is that we're going to announce the dates for our next in-person Alley Group University. Actually, Scotsman will, of course, be one of the attendees, and those dates will be February 28th through March 2nd. So you'll be seeing new information on that coming out here shortly. In the meantime, thank you for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again on Thursday at 10 a.m., where we'll be over at the ACP headquarters in Cedar Rapids. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye now.
Thank you.